And we're here for a very serious purpose, Something's out of control, but we're going to put it in control very quickly like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States. I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening. They've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly.
And this is an unprecedented move, and it comes on the heels of their man Big Balls getting beat down in D.C. They never seem to care about anyone else getting stabbed, shot, and killed, Seth Riches, anything else in the past. But all of a sudden now they care. They care about going after druggies, right? Isn't that what a lot of the small-minded people out there are thinking? You think that this is all about druggies? What about the people that have a 9-to-5 that work all week and live out of the vehicle or are homeless? What kind of camp are they going into? Huh? Do you ever stop to think about that and see the bigger picture? Of course, people that are on drugs need help. That's obvious. But that's where it stops with some of you. Your small mind can't seem to see the bigger picture of what they're doing. Just like you can't see with these strike teams going around rounding people up, that the moment they lock people back down again, they're going to be used on purebloods. You better see the bigger picture of what's happening here. The federalization of a city is no joke. Taking over the police force is no joke. Putting the National Guard on the streets against the people to do whatever they need to do, he said, it's no joke, and it happens. Now, D.C. is its own little neck of the woods with its own laws, and it's just like London, just like the Vatican. I've explained this in separate videos, but this sets a precedent. Anyone that wants to show up saying, how can you be against them treating people for drugs? We never said that. Not once. You just made it up. We've never said that. You're just assuming that. Or you're clinging to garbage. Yeah, they need help. But you won't face the bigger question. What happens to all the other people out here that are homeless? How does it affect them? What kind of camp are they going in? That's the issue. Not people on drugs that need the help. Not that. It's everyday people that are going to get swept up off the streets everywhere with nowhere to go. They're going to get rounded up. And where are they going to go? Well, we'll see what these camps end up looking like. These treatment facilities. But again, how do you treat someone for being poor? That's the big question from here. Join me for the live streams. Going live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Dabu77. Talking about this.
And there you go. Shalom. First thing and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noise in the gospel abroad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. Trump pretty much federalized D.C., which is a province of the what they call the District of Columbia. All right, which you got Canada, you got Washington, D.C. Also, you got Britain, which is basically British Columbia, which basically the D.C. area is really, or the tri-state area, it's really its own entity. Okay, this is why I like a lot of the laws that's written that come out of Washington, D.C. A lot of times they're signed off on the Queen, because when you got what they call the bar exam, which comes out of Britain, that's why a lot of the laws are pretty much of the how can I say it? This is why a lot of the laws that's here in America are quite diverse, even though it's oppressive. But technically, they get their shit from the crown, you know. So Washington, D.C., that was a strategic move for Trump to do that, because I mean, out of all the places that crime is taking place, Chicago, LA, New York, why didn't he just federalize those cities? Well, because Washington, D.C., by that being the capital of America, basically that's where the insurrection shit starts at. That's where it goes forth. So from that point, you got New York, Chicago, LA, and the rest of these provinces will follow suit, because crime is just going to get worse. And then you have to oftentimes ask yourself, with these particular events that's happening, are they really authentic events, or are they being propagated, or are they being led on by crisis actors? Because you had this guy by the name of Big Boss, which we have yet to see a video of this guy. Allegedly, he got beat up by two dudes that was attempting to hijack a woman. And allegedly, he beat the shit out these two dudes, but yet they beat him down at the same time. It's just a big mess, man. Okay, there was a shooting the other day outside of the CDC. And prior to that, there was another campus shooting. All right, but yet the person who they claimed did the shooting, allegedly he's dead, but they didn't show any footage of this guy. But allegedly the cop that was trying to interfere and stop the mass shooter was a Jake that was 33 years old. That go that number 33, and he was killed. So there you go. They say dead man can tell no tale. So this is all, it's looking real funny. It's sloppy. It's fishy. But at the same time, I mean, they plan on the ignorance of you people, because you people in America, you just dumb. You just don't give a shit. Okay, as long as you can work and pay your taxes and buy your expensive ass car notes and live in your overpriced apartments and go to work every day and watch must-see TV and football and eat McDonald's, that's all the fuck you give a fuck about, man. Okay, he's basically declaring martial law. He's basically putting all the troops in place. So when this place falls, they're already gonna have a police presence here. Okay, so it's not looking too good. But hey, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai will be done. This is Chat GDP. I said, what happens if a president federalizes a city? Now it says if a U.S. president federalizes a city, it usually means the president is using federal authority to deploy federal forces or take control of local functions under specific legal grounds. And in this case, this was just like a alleged, like somebody got beat up. Like people get pushed in front of trains all the goddamn time. All right, there's no justification of sending the National Guards and federalizing these troops to police the streets of America. But this is all part of the plan, you know, because they're getting ready to collapse this society, and they want a heavy military presence built up in these cities to keep some type of order out of chaos, man. That's what it's about, because remember, he upped the ICE budget by $155 billion. So let that sink in. So they're getting ready to start rounding people up, man. But it says here, this is a serious and rare action that can trigger significant legal, political, and social consequences. Here's typically what happens and what it means. What federalizing means is this context, it usually refers to the use of federal authority, particularly deploying federal troops or federal law enforcement, to taking over control of certain functions from local or state governments. So it means that they're going to have authority over the state boys. They're going to have authority over the local cops, the police officers, the sheriff. They're going to have jurisdiction over the whole province of America, man. And one thing about when you're federally mandated, you have jurisdiction to any place in the country, for real. Even though they may have like certain borders and parameters that they can operate within. At the end of the day, if Esau wants to send a CIA or the FBI to get your ass from Nicaragua or from the Dominican Republic, or if you want to send the FBI to extract your ass all the way from Afghanistan, they can do it. They've done it before. You know, but it says federalizing a city isn't explicitly named in law, but it can be done under several legal authorities, which is the Insurrection Act of 1807. And then they got the Alien Enemies Act of 1897, I believe, you know, which is basically shit dealing with this border crisis that allegedly we have, which they allow the people over here. They allow people to come over here. I mean, they literally open the borders up, and all the people that they're complaining about, they're allowed to come over here. All right, but it says here, allows the president to deploy U.S. military or National Guard, or even overthrow a governor's objection to suppress insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combinations of conspiracy, see? And they call us conspiracy nuts. Rebellion against U.S. authority. federal law enforcement authority. Federal law agencies like the DHS, FBI, DEA, ATF can operate within cities without local permission, especially on federal property or in pursuit of federal crimes. It says the president could direct these agencies to ram up activity in a city, effectively bypassing law's control. Okay? Now, in my humble opinion, I believe a lot of these troops that they federalizing are probably UN troops. Because ain't no way in hell I can see American people policing their own people to this degree. Okay, there's some fishy about this because they let a lot of people from different countries across the border. So when they start to federalize these troops and they're not looking like typical Americans, man, that's gonna spell a disaster because somebody's gonna catch wind of it. You know, and then you got the military, the US Army, you got the National Guard, and you got the local cops. Eventually there may be some type of form of AWOL going on here because I can very well see that actual cops and privatized militias going up against these federal troops eventually when an active civil war is among us, you know. But anyway, it says political backlash. Cities and states often see this as a federal overreach. Legal challenges. Local governments might sue over constitutional violations like state rights or due process. But really, there's no more constitution. Okay, that's been done away with. And it reads, it says, can escalate protests like unrest or polarized opinion depending on the context or precedent risk. Expanding federal power in local matters can erode democratic norms. You know, so Trump is already having the paperwork set up so when this shit falls, they can come in and they got their marching orders and they can do what they do. All right, so let's get a precept real quick and I'm gonna go to the article. This is the book of 2 Esdras 15, and I'm gonna start at 14. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. It says, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people should stand up to fight against another with swords in their hands. That's civil war. Okay, and the way that the country is going with the famines and the shortages that's coming, possible grid outages, the reset of the dollar, okay, people losing their money in these banks, people losing their retirement, people are ready to crash out in real time, man. So they need a type of police presence that's gonna bring order to the society, man. Okay, and he wants to do that by putting people in these concentration camps. Because you heard what he said, he wanna get the poor off the streets, he wanna help people with drug problems. Well, why didn't you federalize Philly? You know, you got Philly and then you got, what's that other place? Baltimore. Okay, those places are totally infatuated or infatuated with drugs and fiends and all these other people. Okay, crime is at an all-time high out there. But it says here, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people should stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands. And this is talking about from military to local police to National Guard to actual privatized or deputized citizens. Because one thing in the Constitution, the people are way more than justified on starting their own militia and going up against the system. That's in the Constitution, but people, they don't care about constitutional rights, man. Only when it comes to taking certain freedoms and things from them, that's when they decide to fight back. But overall, people, they're not really concerned about that. As long as it's not affecting them indirectly or directly, they don't really care about it until it comes knocking at their front door. Then that's when people want to start complaining. Well, y'all can't do this. This is against the Constitution. Well, duh. But you ain't stopping before, so what make you think they're going to stop now? All right. And it says here, for there should be sedition among men in invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of that action shall stand in their power. So people, they just not going to give a fuck. Okay, they going to start going out and doing what they do, robbing people, killing, stealing, all right, graping, kidnapping, hell, torching office buildings, finding judges and lawyers. Hey, man, a lot of these people, they got a lot of anger on them too. You know, you got certain men that's sitting back waiting on the system to collapse so they can go and off their baby mama. You got people sitting back waiting on shit to collapse so they can go up to these government offices and grab up these child support lawyers and judges and send them to the spirit world. You got people that want politicians, man. You got people that want people, and they're just waiting on the first sign of collapse. They're going to go out there and they're going to take what they want. Okay, that's why the scriptures refer to this place as the threshing floor. Things are gonna fall apart quick, you know. And it reads, and it says, and a man should desire to go into a city and should not be able. Why? Because there's gonna be martial law. Okay, they're gonna barricade roads, they're gonna block off bridges, blow bridges, set up checkpoints on interstates and local highways, to the point if you want to get from one side of the city to the next, you're going to have some type of credentials which shows that you have access to this side of the city, which will be the RFID chip. Okay, that's coming. Social credit scores are coming. And it says, for because of their pride, the city should be troubled, the houses should be destroyed, and men should be afraid, and the men shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but should destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and great tribulation. So this is a societal collapse, man. Order out of chaos. You see? Let's go here. Trump. Let's see what it says here.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue.
So President Trump has federalized the police department in Washington, D.C., and people are upset. He's calling it Liberation Day for Washington, D.C., and I couldn't agree more. The crime in D.C. has ran rampant, and it's about time that people can now have faith and trust and law enforcement out there and be able to walk the streets and not get hit over the head or mugged. I mean, why would anybody be upset with that? We just had a young member of Doge beat by a gang of young males. I mean, why would anybody have a problem with that?
Peep this. That's why the scriptures say gross darkness cover the people. Look, he needs to do California next. We stand behind our president. I voted for this 3 times. And let's look at this bitch. Of course, doesn't surprise me. You people getting ready to get a rule away from you.
I'm so confused.
The Simpsons predicted Trump would send the National Guard into Washington, D.C. In season 35, Kent Brockman announces a crime crackdown.
In the nation's capital, home to nearly 700,000 people, violent crime dropped 26% from last year. But today, President Trump took charge of the nearly 4,000-person police department, claiming Washington, D.C. is in crisis.
Today, we're formally declaring a public safety emergency. This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency.
He defended his controversial decision by painting a dystopian picture of a community overrun by marauding packs of criminals. And he cited the assault of a young administration staffer earlier this summer.
Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people.
I mean, look at the skull of these devils, man. These are some evil, fucking, sick, satanic bastards, man. Look at this broad. I think that, like that Pam Bundy. I don't know. All of them look alike. But look at this guy on the left. They just a bunch of goddamn devils, man.
But the latest data shows homicides are down 12% from last year, while robberies declined by 28%. Mayor Muriel Bowser defended D.C.'s image.
While this action today is
You notice they got niggas. Pay attention. Every Democrat city, even if it's a Republican state, they got niggas as mayors over the city. Prime example, I think St. Louis got a black mayor. Kansas City, a so-called black mayor. L.A., black mayor. Chicago, black mayor. What's this guy, Eric Adams? I don't know if they got rid of his ass or not. I don't keep up with that, but regardless of it, it's funny how they got niggas set up over these highly democratized cities, man, like Kansas City, Missouri. Even though this is a red state, they push liberalism in the inner cities because you jakes are concentrated in these cities, and they're able to push these policies on you to destroy you because the scriptures go into how Jake wants to hear smooth things, prophesied to deceit. So they set up niggas like Catherine Bass or Catherine, whatever the hell her name is, and this guy Quentin Lucas, that Mo. And then you got the other nigga from Chicago, Brandon Johnson, which they ready to hang that nigga by his bootstraps because he didn't destroy Chicago. He's worse than Lori Lightfoot. Okay, that Yoshi / Don King looking bitch. You know, they're pissed off at these nigga mayors and they set you up for that. You know.
Settling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past, that we're totally surprised.
Federal agents from the FBI and ATF are already posted on D.C. streets, raising concerns for some, including Tom Warwick, a former Homeland Security official.
Taking FBI agents off of organized crime cases, terrorism, and other kinds of cases to do street patrols, that's not the best use of a highly trained FBI agent.
You think this could be a distraction?
It really looks as though a lot of this is performance.
The 800 National Guard troops are expected to deploy later this week, and many have little training or experience policing U.S. streets.
The best case scenario is what happened in Los Angeles, which is these 800 people stand around for several weeks doing essentially nothing, and then eventually most of them go home.
Scott, the president mentioned he has ideas about what to do with the homeless in Washington. What are those?
At times, John, he referred to Washington, D.C. as a slum, and then said homeless people need to be moved away from the Capitol. Gave no detail of what that looks like or how that happens. We do know both the federal government and the D.C. government regularly clear encampments for homeless people. It's a painstaking, lengthy, and sensitive process. Hard
Epstein shit ain't gonna
to know, Maurice and John, what that
devil, they ain't gonna let
looks
him,
like if it's sped up.
They're not gonna let him die that down. They really on this Epstein shit, but it don't even matter. Even if he is on a list, at the end of the day, you people ain't gonna do nothing about it anyway. All right.
Federalize the D.C. Police Department. His reasons is to clean up D.C. This was 20 years ago. I would agree with that. Because when I was a kid, there was like abandoned buildings right next to the White House, like literally down a block from the White House. And I was like 19 years old going on a school trip. I'm like, this is my first time seeing D.C. as a kid. I'm like, okay. But now, I mean, last time I was in D.C. last November, it was definitely like a lot of homeless. It kind of reminded me of L.A. If you go to L.A., it's like people with tents everywhere. But I strongly believe this is political, honestly. He has beef with the D.C., politicians there. So this is a tit for tat. But hey, if they do decide to really actually clean up D.C., that's pretty much a good thing. We'll see. But I don't believe it, though, you know?
These people are stupid. I'm trying to hear what you got to say, Keisha. The hell with you. Trump invokes D.C. Home Rule Act, set to deploy National Guard and law and order push. This is a flex of muscle right here. This is why that whole Cali thing last month that took place, that was all just a flex. That was all propagation for shit like this, because this is getting ready to be the norm. Eventually, this is going to be Chicago, because just watch how crime miraculously skyrockets, man. Okay, watch them shed the light on shit that they've been keeping from us, or miraculously some type of shit show, a surge in violence ends up the main norm because they crisis out, whatever they gonna do. Just watch. Chicago, eventually, LA, New York, Philly, these places are gonna be on the chopping block next. Because like I said, they have to have a police presence there so they can be justified on locking you up. So it says President Trump and people, and it's just like having a military presence is just gonna be the norm for the people. It's just normal now, But it says President Trump told reporters at the White House that he plans to deploy the D.C. National Guard and place the Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control as part of a massive push to restore law and order in the nation's capital. It says he told the reporters that he's officially invoking the D.C. Home Rule Act to place the Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control and deploy the National Guard, stating, "This Liberation Day in D.C. and we're going to take our capital back." Seems the polar opposite. Liberation means to be free or to be let loose for something, but instead you're deploying military on the streets of D.C., which people are going to look at it like, wait a minute, man, that's an overuse of power, But it says earlier President Trump fired off at the Truth Social post around 8 a.m. Says DC will be liberated today. Crime, savagery, filth, and scum will disappear, and I will make our capital great again. And he's really talking about you, Jakes. Okay, the real goal is to set up police presence in Jake neighborhoods, because believe it or not, DC has a heavy Jake presence there. You know, ghetto right next to the White House. It says the days of ruthlessly killing or hunting or hurting innocent people are over. He says, I quickly fixed the border, 0 illegals, and over the last 3 months in DC is next. But it says here, Trump's Truth Social post was followed by a report from the Wall Street Journal, which cited a U.S. official saying the White House was preparing to activate hundreds of National Guard troops across the metro area, pending a final order. But earlier this year, the president signed an executive order to establish the D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force, calling for an increased law enforcement presence in public areas and launching an initiative to beautify parks and other public spaces. All right. It says here, let's see what this says. You got to question a lot of this shit. And I mean, this is some local law enforcement can handle. I mean, 100 youths. I mean, that's, yeah, Jake is out there wild, but I mean, is that really necessary to deploy federal troops? Like I said, man, it's bigger than what they're letting on. It says, in last week, 19-year-old Edward Corderstein, a former staffer at the Department of Government Efficiency, whose LinkedIn handle earned his name, Big Balls, was hurt badly in an attack in the crime-ridden metro area. Similar crime trends have been seen in lawless Baltimore City, controlled by far-left politicians who have zero accountability for their failed social justice policies. So that whole left-wing, right-wing shit, and that the Democrats allowed the criminals to run rampant was all the setup for martial law. Okay? Defund the police, all set up because they wanted a reason to bring in more and more firepower to police these cities, and that's really what it's about. You know? Let's go here. Ezekiel 23 and 23. And it says here, therefore, therefore says the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will raise up thy lovers against thee, from whom thy mind is alienated, and I will bring them against thee on every side. The Babylonians and all the Chaldeans, Pico, Short, and Koah, and all the Assyrians with them, all of them desirable young men, captains and rulers, great lords, in renown, all of them riding upon horses. That's the military right there. And they should come against thee with chariots and wagon and wheels, and with an assembly of people, which shall set against thee buckler and shield and helmet round about. And I will set judgment before them, and they should judge thee according to their judgments. And I will set my jealousy against thee, and they should deal furiously with thee, and they should take away thy nose and thy ears, and thy remnant shall fall by the sword, and they should take thy sons and thy daughters, and thy residue should be devoured by fire. Okay? Meaning they're going to surround your cities. They will also strip thee out of thy clothes and take away thy fair jewels. Thus I will make thy lewdness to cease from thee, and thy whoredom bulk from the land of Egypt. So should thou lift up, it says, so that thou should not lift up thy eyes unto them, nor remember Egypt anymore. So the Lord is getting ready to purge you Jakes, man. All right, because as I mentioned, a lot of this is to do with you Jakes, because, you know, when they think of crime, they're not talking about Edomites. They're talking about niggas. Okay, because who likes to go in neighborhoods and steal kids and wrap them around poles, or drive on the opposite side of the E-way and have a head-on collision? That's you niggas. Okay, who's going in grocery stores and retail stores and stealing things with bonnets on without paying for it? That's you tribes, man. So that's why they're doing this, because they want a reason to lock you niggas up. And you know what? We not mad at that, because you Jakes, man, you Jakes are completely out your damn mind. And he gonna have his way with you, because the Lord gave him the permission. Isaiah 10, and I'm going to start at verses 5. It says, O Assyrian, the rod of my anger, and the staff in their hand is my indignation. That staff is that power and that sword. It says, I will send him against a hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath, I will give him a charge to take the spoil, and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets, man. So this is coming to a Jake neighborhood near you. And honestly speaking, you niggas need to be thrown in concentration camps and taken out of your misery, because you act like a bunch of wild animals, man. So you know what? We're not even mad at this, but the only thing is we're all going to be targeted in this, because, you know, he's coming after the men of the Lord too. But the difference between us and these people is that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is going to raise up a standard, okay? And for these Jakes, he's not going to do anything, man. They just going to get caught out there, you know? So this is the book of Isaiah 59, and I'm going to start at 19. It says, So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy should come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. That's right. So he's going to raise up a standard for when these devils come barging in for us. The Lord is going to create something that's going to deter these devils from getting all of us. And you got to believe in that, you know. And the Redeemer should come to Zion, and unto them that turn from transgressions in Jacob, says the Lord, the elect. You see? So with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Lord's will you were edified. To the next lesson. Shalom.